Hi, I'm Diane Sharp, Director of Admissions for the Wharton MBA program for executives in Philadelphia. On behalf of myself and my counterpart, Barbara Kraft, who is the Director of Admissions for the MBA program for executives in San Francisco, we'd like to welcome you and cover the admissions process. We'd like to give you a few tips as you go through your application. With me today is a first-year student who is fresh off, more or less, the admissions process, so I know she'll be able to shed some light on a strategy. So her name is Malina Robbins. Malina, would you give us a little bit about yourself, please?
Of course. My name's Malina Robbins. I am part of EMBA 43 out of Philadelphia. I live in the area and work for WSFS Bank, which is a publicly traded financial institution headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware. I work in the commercial real estate group there, and I've been in Greater Philadelphia for about 5 years now. Prior to that, I grew up in Victoria and Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. All of my education is from Canada before Wharton, and I went to the University of British Columbia there, did an undergraduate degree in commerce, which, despite sounding similar, has been quite a change to Wharton here. I guess I'll start with that.
Great. Thank you, Malina. So first, before we delve into the application process and the nitty-gritty details, I'd like to talk about why you should apply a bit. So, of course, I have a biased perspective, but I do want to make sure that everyone has the information and why we can separate ourselves from the rest of the pack. There's a lot of very good executive MBA programs out there, so I want to make sure you are getting all the information you need as you apply. So, if you would start, Malina, and say, what attracted you to Wharton, and what have you found since you've been here for 1.5 semesters?
So my main thing that attracted me was how well Wharton did globally in terms of its rating and how it was recognized as a school that was very difficult to get into. So I suppose I like a challenge. For my undergraduate program, I also chose the most difficult program to get into in Canada, and Wharton is the same. Everyone that has come here, all of my classmates, I think we all appreciate a challenge. I think that if any of us had received a B, it would have maybe been the first B we've ever gotten in our life. And so it's been amazing to be around that quality and level of people. And I really wanted it because it speaks for itself. So where I want to go with my career, it's going to be positions that I'm going to need to be voted into. Yeah. And a lot of the time there isn't going to be direct personal experience. Mm-hmm. And so having that Wharton degree on paper and knowing what it means and knowing that you're not just buying a degree, I think that says a lot.
Great. Yeah, we have started calling the ROI of your investment an ROE. This is a new expression we've learned in the admissions side of things. It's your return on education. Yes, it's a resource, financial, time, energy, all of the above, but what that education is on your resume. And as you come visit us and delve into the various programs out there, hopefully you're seeing that the return on education and investment is going to be lifelong. You'll come and visit as you did. We have various events throughout the year, both in the East and West Coast. We want you to really experience the program and meet the students and alumni, as Malina did, I know, so you can see the diversity and depth and the caliber of the students here already achieving in their careers. So again, Malina's a semester and a half into the program, but hopefully she's feeling that rigor. We are very protective of our MBA at Wharton, so we are making sure the executive students are getting a Wharton MBA. We do not distinguish it. Once you have graduated, you are a Wharton MBA, nothing executive on that diploma. So how's that feeling? Are you feeling you're getting Wharton rigor?
I love it. So it's been extremely difficult. It's been extremely challenging. I think that you're balancing your regular work life, your family life. I have a husband and lovely 9-year-old stepdaughter, and I make time for dinner and then study in the evenings and go back to work first thing in the morning. and my work has been extremely supportive, but you get into it, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And if it were easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. So I think I've really appreciated that about the program is I don't want something that's easy, and that's not why I chose Wharton.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, that means we're doing our job right, Barb and I, on the admissions committee, because that is the type of person that we know will succeed here. Absolutely. So there are a lot of executive MBA programs out there, as you know, and it's really important for you to visit each one to really feel what feels right for you and go out and actually sit in on class as well. So hopefully we've got your interest in coming and visiting, either in Philadelphia or San Francisco. And let's talk about the application process, my favorite piece of this whole thing. So there are 3 basic areas that we do evaluate as we look at each applicant. There's academic foundation, there's professional background, and then there is your personal story. So let's take those in the 3 different buckets. So academic foundation. As I mentioned, this is a Wharton MBA. We have the same admissions criteria as our full-time counterpart, and you are going to be in class with Wharton professors, the same number of hours to earn that MBA, so we have to vet our applicants the same way. We have 2 pieces of data when we're saying, does this person have what it takes to succeed? Your transcripts. We wanted to see the Vancouver, British Columbia transcripts. We have very international student bodies, so we get them from all over the world, which is wonderful. And then tests. So, Malina, you took the GMAT, is that correct?
I did.
Right.
That's
So, could you give some tips? How did you strategize as you were gearing up to take that fun test?
So for me, the biggest thing was coming for the interview. So I came for an open house pretty early on, and at the open house, they said to come in for an interview as early as you could. So 5 minutes later, I scheduled an interview for the following week, and I came in, and I basically came in with a number, and I said, if I get a score of 700 on my GMAT, is that enough? And they said, if you get a 700 and a 70 on your quant, that would be enough given your background. And we talked about my work history, and I had 9 years of work experience coming into the program. I had had some management of individuals on a team, but no direct people that I was supervising. And I felt like I was on the cusp for everything. And so it was really nice sitting down with someone and getting real answers. So I had a good concrete number that I had to work for. And so that's what I did. I studied for the GMAT originally, maybe a little half-heartedly. Went through it the first time, realized what I needed to work on, and then in the course of a month, really focused and probably put in 40 or 50 hours in a month and got the scores I needed. So I was happy with that.
Great. That's what we like to hear. And if I may assume that this somewhat prepares you to be that busy studying, taking tests during the program.
Absolutely.
A little bit of that mindset.
Yeah. So that 40 or 50 hours a month, that's not unusual. And I think that everyone handles it differently. I personally go with 8 to 11 at night is my time for Wharton, along with the times that you're here. Other people wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And I don't know how, but they do it. So, yeah, you can do it, and you think that you have no time, but you'll find it. You'll create the time, and you'll create it so that you can succeed.
Great. Yeah, and as Malina said, she interacted with us early, because then we can learn about you and give you that guidance, because each one of you is coming from a different educational background and has different goals. So the sooner you interact with Barb or myself, the sooner you can get those details, because it is about the bigger picture, what kind of education you had, how you did. Not everybody was able to hit the mark in undergrad, and that's fine. This is where those tests can actually be your friend, because that is now, and they do have a correlation to how you succeed in an MBA program. And that's why our averages are on the high side, because we have a high level, high caliber education here, and the professors are not diluting the degree just because our students are a little rustier. So that being said, we have the GMAT, and now we're accepting the GRE, just as our full-time MBA program is. So you're free to look at that test as well and decide which one makes sense for you. And when we give those guidelines on how you should fare on the quantitative side of those tests, they will vary because the GMAT has a deeper quantitative testing. Now, a brand new test developed by the people at GMAC is the executive assessment, and we are piloting that for the first time. There's not a ton of data, which means also there's not a ton of prep coursework available online, but there is some, and you can actually check that test out too. Again, we're accepting it as a pilot, and if you're not sure if you should take it, please give Barbara me a call. Again, hopefully you've got that theme by now. We want to talk with you. We'll have a phone chat or bring you in for an interview. So if you're a fellows candidate, that is something we'll get to a little bit later, the difference between traditional and fellows. You won't be able to take the executive assessment for us because it is for executives, the non-fellows candidates. All right, so we'll be talking about the academics. So everybody needs to hit the mark there. But the other area that we do look at is your professional background. So there is no right answer. We often get this question, Barbara and I, about what are you looking for? What should I be doing as I'm getting ready to apply to Wharton? You know, what kind of background? Do what your passion is. That's what's going to reflect well in your application. So, and I'm sure Malina can talk to the different backgrounds we have here. So it's interesting to us to hear what you've done and why you want an MBA. So it's a different story for all of you. And Malina, could you share a little bit about when you realized you want an MBA and as you've written those essays about this is why I want to get an MBA, what were you learning, and has that been happening as you've
Absolutely.
been here?
So as I mentioned before, a little bit of it was about having the piece of paper and having people know what you've accomplished. But a lot of it is, I really feel like your undergraduate program prepares you really well for the first 5 years of your career. The MBA goes for a much further trajectory. So now I'm looking to learn how to run an entire business and a publicly traded company, and I want to know the ins and outs. When I came for my first interview or open house, I sat in on a corporate valuation class. And my company was actually going through an acquisition at the time of a private company. This class was teaching you how to value a private company. So I began kind of trying to check the work that we had done internally and see if we were paying a fair price. But it was great seeing how applicable it was going to be immediately. And even though I'm only a term and a half in, I've already experienced that. So their coursework has been things that I've been able to take on Saturday and bring them into the workplace on Monday. So that's been wonderful. So the learning for me was actually very important because I'm not where I'm going to end up in my career, and I'm not going to be happy just sitting still.
Thanks. Thank you. Good. And the final piece of what the admissions committee evaluates, we call it your personal story, your history. And again, everyone who walks into our offices, East Coast, West Coast, has a different personal story. And the most direct way we get at that is the interview. And again, the sooner you interview, the better, because that's one-on-one time with a member of the admissions committee. And you can bring your questions too. Hopefully you leave that day feeling really confident in what you are going to say in your application, because we're going to interview you on a class day, so you can sit in on class, have lunch with our students, and have that time. So a lot of people are very concerned about the interview. They think, oh, I'm going to be interviewing at Wharton, and the stress level gets a little elevated. Malina, would you share what an interview at Wharton is like?
Absolutely. So it's not an interview. It is in that you go and you meet with somebody and you talk, but I would treat it more as an informational interview. It's for you. I mean, I felt like I got a lot more out of it than, who knows, than the interviewer did, really. So I had a lot of questions, and I got all of my questions answered. It was really helpful, and it was something I'm really glad I did up front, and I highly recommend doing it early and knowing the bar for you. Like, where do you need to strive to, and what are the negotiations that are going to take place, and is this a degree that's going to work? And for me, those answers were yes. And so immediately after, I started talking to my company and talking about sponsorship and the time involved. And luckily, they were very supportive of the endeavor.
Perfect. Yeah. Barb and I are actively interviewing as we speak, and other members of the committee help us. And so you could pick up the phone tomorrow or email us this afternoon and get on our calendars, both East and West. So Quen Tran in the West and Alicia Rogers in the East. So you can go to our website and get that kind of contact information. So yeah, if we're doing our job right, Barb and I and the other members of the admissions committee, it's a conversation. Yeah, we want to make sure you have what you need to make sure this is the right program for you. And all we need is your resume. We do not have to have the entire application submitted. In fact, you should do it before you submit. You want to start an application so you're aware of what we're looking for, so you can have those questions, but you don't have to have had a test taken. You don't have to have your transcripts arrived yet. Do start ordering those and the conversations around that. But the sooner you interview, I think the more you'll be aware throughout the process. All right, as we keep kind of harping on, there is no right or wrong to what your story is. We love diversity in every way we can get it. Professional, geographic, the more the merrier. Just because you don't see yourself on that pie chart that we have on our website or the list of functions and industries and so forth doesn't mean we don't want you. It just means we don't have you yet. All right, if you know why you want an MBA, please tell us, and we'll work with you. So absolutely no typical student. So Malina, if you could share what kinds of other, what are your classmates like? A little variety there.
So I have a learning team, and there's 6 of us in it. And even within that, it represents Canada, the US, Europe, and India. And we have a doctor who runs the cardiology department. We have someone with a nuclear military background, someone in finance and fundraising and project management. And everyone's coming from such a different place. It's amazing to see how people's minds work and for everyone to be so successful in their respective fields. And I've really enjoyed getting to know them and getting some really personal feedback on how you're viewed in the workplace and everyone's been wonderful. So the networking is so important, and that's been great. Everyone's been so open, and you're going to get investment opportunities. You're going to get job opportunities. One of my teammates has already switched his path in the program, and that came from a WEMBA teammate of ours, or another student in the WEMBA program. Mm-hmm. I've met with previous WEMBA alumni, and it's true. Everyone will take your call. So far, I've had a 100% success rate for coffees and lunches and phone calls, and it's been really amazing how supportive the WEMBA community has been.
That's great. Yeah, that's one thing we hope we're relaying to you as well. It's not just the Wharton academic experience. It's a Wharton experience. We're not doing our job if we're not giving our students that same bonding. So we have our residency requirement when they're here. We want to make sure our students are very much feeling that they're part of the Greater Wharton network. So hopefully you'll get that. And I think our students being a little further along are sometimes kind of surprised at how close they become with their classmates. And as we mentioned, there's no typical student, but I have to be honest, there's a common denominator amongst all of our students. If Barb and I are doing our job right again, it's they would not be happy if they were not being challenged. And that theme hopefully has come across. So whatever that means to you, you'll just relay that to us. This is the type of program where people, almost half already have an advanced degree of some type. So it's just a constant learning and challenging yourself environment. And one distinct difference that we do have between our full-time counterpart is that letter of sponsorship that's required. You are coming to the program with your employer, so you need to have that kind of sign-off. And that needs to be done by whomever in your company has the authority to do it. It could be different for every company. We don't have a template that we have because we see so many different companies through our program. But it's an important conversation to have, and you should have it sooner than later. So, Malina, if you would share your process, how did you approach it? Once you knew you wanted to get your MBA and you didn't want to leave your job, how did you get that buy-in at work?
So for me, I have a very supportive boss. He actually went through Wharton's undergraduate program, and I talked with him about it at first, and he was completely supportive. I mean, everyone knows Wharton, so that helped. And I basically told him what I wanted to do. For my particular case, I'm staying with my company. That's what I want to do, and I want to grow within it. And so that was easy to give them a time commitment and kind of tell them what I wanted to get out of it. And it didn't hurt that the CEO of the company also is a WEMBA graduate. So when he found out, he also gave us support and made a call on my behalf after I had submitted my application. So that was lovely. And it's been great. I mean, I only miss 2 or 3 days of work a month, technically. So you can make that up. And the value that they've seen, I think they already really see what you can get out of it. And there's been papers that I've been able to write that have involved the company, and programs that I've been able to transfer, and different Excel models that have really sped up processes. And it's literally been a term and a half into it. So I think being open and candid about what you want, it really actually elevates you within your company immediately upon just expressing your interest in the program. So I thought it was great for me personally.
Good. Yeah, and for each of you, even if you're in the same company as others who are applying, there'll be a different scenario for your sponsorship. But start that conversation. The minimum is the time. You need that 2 days a month sign-off to hit the campus in San Francisco or Philadelphia. And it is great if they can invest in you. It's a very positive investment, as we've said, but it's also immediate, as you've learned. So what you decide, you and your company decide, as far as how long you would stay with them afterwards, and how much you would pay back if you left, that sort of thing, that's between you and your company. We just want to know what they're providing for you, and that they get it, that spiritual support, that they know this is going to be great for you and the company. So we do have a distinction, that fellows versus traditional applicant. So basically 8 years is the cutoff. If you're less than that in work experience, you would be considered a fellows candidate. And what that means is your resume would reflect that you would also be a fit for our full-time MBA program. So we want to make sure, if you're right for Wharton and Wharton is right for you, that you're on the right side of the house. So again, another good conversation to have, and you could actually apply to both programs. But if you're generally happy with your trajectory and you don't want to jump off, you might be leaning our way. So if that's the case, your company does need to financially be investing in you to a significant degree. Again, a good conversation to have via phone with myself or Barb to distinguish where you fall in that. And it is really that management experience, whether it's formal or informal, we need to see a little more of that. It's just our average is about 10 and a half years, anywhere between 10 and 11 work experience, but we have plenty that are below that. That curve kind of drops off more quickly. And then we have people here with 15, 20, and sometimes more work experience, which is great. Just so happens to be that 10, 11-year mark is where a lot of people come, and which is fine. And that there's a lot of tips on our website, too, as far as how to approach your company and get that conversation started. Good. So hopefully we've kind of gone over all the different elements of the application, a couple themes here. Interact with us sooner than later. Get to know Barb and myself and the rest of the admissions committee. We've got a great team on both coasts, and make those calls. So the requirements would be the application, open one, start one now. You'll see that 2 recommendations are required. Reflect well on who you're going to have recommend you. It doesn't have to be somebody from the WEMBA program. It's great if that is, but don't err in the side of he went to Wharton or to the executive MBA program at Wharton. I'll ask him or her, if that person hasn't really worked with you and known you, to give that insight. That's really what reflects well as somebody's going to bat for you. So it should be work-related. So start all those conversations, get those recommendations sent, schedule your interview, a class visit. Barb and I are still on the road. We almost go year-round now, so keep your eye on our website for those events and start studying for those tests. Reflect on which one you want to take, and if you have any questions, please run it by Barb or myself and get those transcripts sent. So hopefully you can pull all this together. We do have 2 deadlines now. Round 1 is December 6th, and if you're able to get everything in by then, you'll hear for late January. Round 2 is February 7th, and that would be late March. You'll hear from us. There is no pros or cons to either. It's really when you feel ready to submit your application. Don't try to cram and rush if you've got end-of-year deadlines at work, that sort of thing. Wharton will be here, and sometimes it's a conversation where we'll say, let's look at next year, all right? Because there is a lot of things to pull together. Some of the people that are ready to submit their application in about a month, they've been interacting with us for the last year or so too. So a lot of things to pull together. Hopefully it's been worth it so far. Any words of wisdom for any of the folks who are watching this?
I would say just go for it. Apply. If it sounds like you want to get something out of it for yourself, if you really want to work hard and be rewarded for it, this is the program. If you want to buy a degree, this isn't the program for you. So I would say that. I mean, I've loved it so much, and yeah, made such a great choice and won't ever look back. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And please, if you have any questions, call Barb or Tran out in San Francisco, or myself and Alicia Rogers here in Philadelphia. And we really want to meet you very soon. Thank you.